distribution. Yeah.
But they see the contrail forming behind the jet engines, and they claim that 10 minutes later the contrail has fallen on them, and they are suffering from terrible respiratory problems. Or bullshit, it's impossible. Cannot happen. Cannot happen. Even if the contrail were made out of lead, by the time it hit the ground, it wouldn't be anywhere near them. We'll talk about it tomorrow night. We're going to pop all your bubbles about contrails and tell you the truth. Oh, yes. And if I can contact him, we're going to have a special guest. My good friend Jay Reynolds, who did the research and wrote the article for Veritas. And documented every bit of it. Now, he doesn't know I'm doing this. Whether he can be a guest or not tomorrow night, we're still going to do the contrail story tomorrow night. Because it needs to be done. There's too much hysteria being whipped over this crap. Too many lies being told. Too many people making tons of money by conning you into believing that you're being poisoned and killed by the exhaust from jet airplanes.
Testing this. Right. Testing. I'll just go away. Does it arseholes? Suck it into my stuff. I'll play back to not even said anything. Well, there is sound, so.
Yes. Hi. Hello. Just wanted to share this video.
So, just testing the sound again. And testing. The hacking. Testing. So they hack the computer and hack the phone then, have they? Demons. Let's go and do one. Testing. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, they're just hacking everything. So I'll just play something else. It's only me that gets all this bloody well BS that goes on. All these others are just demonic Freemasons connections. And you're not targeted. I am. The bastards out there. Yeah, thought as much. Sort of mic out. Sound of silence. Shall I sing a song? Can't be bothered until nuggets. Well, we have sound. When mic is working. But it's not working on this phone. We have sound. We have sound.
This might just be the simplest, most reliable way to make money online. For example,
Yeah,
George
everyone
here
else
is
has got sound, but not me. Yeah? Wow, look how desperate these demons are to hack this computer and the phone. You're just twats, a lot of you. Demons. Right, let's go and do this and watch a film. Test this out on my other phone. You hacked it yet? UK hacking. Don't do this to my Amazonic family members, do you? Look what they're doing. They're making sure this doesn't get out. One view, but no sound. Oh, come on, you stupid twats. I am live. Well, it sounds like I'm live. Well, it sounds like I'm live. I am live. I'm just being hacked. Hello, Tanya. Well, it sounds like I'm live. I am live. I'm just being hacked. Hello, Tanya. Well, it sounds like I'm live. I am live. I'm just being hacked. Hello, Tanya. So, educateyourself.org is a website. Go and research. Educate yourself. Right, let's go to the cloning centre. Clones. Son of Marshall. Let's look for the clonings. Right. I'm gonna go for reptilians and clones. Ancient aliens, reptilians manipulated human DNA. Did you know that? Shapeshifters. Yeah, that's a good one. He's not human.
Stand strong.
Die well.
There's some pretty good ones. Especially, one of the crazy things when you do these live Q&As is some of them are very silly. So we got one. Mark, are the allegations true that you are secretly a lizard? I'm gonna have to go with no on that. I am not a lizard. But keep the high quality comments coming in. Well, Mr. Zuckerberg, dug yourself into a hole? Mr. Zuckerberg. Not a lizard people, he said. We've been seeing Mark Zuckerberg act strange for a long time now, from the infamous or famous meme, nice job team. New face filters on Instagram today. This is my favorite one so far. Nice job, team. New face filter on Instagram today. This is my favorite one so far. Nice job, team. Something is clearly off with Mark Zuckerberg's antics. But what is it? Why is the man leading a social media network so incapable of socialness? I just want to warn you guys, what I'm about to show you next might shock you. It might suck to watch, especially for you, Mark. If you're watching, I know you are. I know you're watching, Mark.
Oh, good.
I know you're sweating. Or can
Check
you
the
sweat?
channel.
Mark, are you capable of human things? Or do you just shed your skin? You kind of need to remind yourself that you need to focus and try not to let stuff bother you as much as possible.
PewDiePie.
But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human. Still,
What is it with these gaming channels? Gaming.
Let's keep watching. But I was just referring to myself in the past. Not that I was not human. I was.
We all have miraculous nano neurotechnology in our skulls. We are all geniuses. We are all divinely created and inspired. The world that we grew up in is not the world that's going to be here. That world is unsustainable and it is collapsing. And we had better be ready to create a new world and be ready for an explosion of ideas, concepts, technologies that have been suppressed, for example. And in order to get our heads around that, we're all going to have to operate at a genius level. There's a system of sharing knowledge and information that exists that you are using, whether you realize it or not. And information comes to you through an unconscious means, because every brain interfaces with a non-material mind. God built this system, people. God built it. You were built to interface with the system. We just have to get back to using this system. Step one is discover your mission, and that can only come from within or through God, but it emerges from within. No one can tell you who you are. You have to discover it. And then secondly, be true to that mission, no matter what else is happening in the world around you, no matter how many people who condemn you or who stop being your friend. When the globalists say they're going to carry out a global reset, they mean it. It's not a joke. It's not a conspiracy theory. They are pursuing it systematically. They have a plan and they're following the plan. I even think that Putin's invasion of Ukraine is part of a globalist plan. All of our technology distracts us from being able to listen to the far more subtle and more quiet voices that permeate our reality, the voices of the plants, of the animals, of nature and of other people, by the way, and the voices of children. Frankly, the ancient indigenous cultures around the world, including, let's say, the Amazonian Indians who I visited some of the medicine men when I lived in South America, they are way more advanced. Chinese medicine, pulse analysis and tongue analysis is far more advanced than your MRI and all your cardiovascular testing equipment. A Chinese medicine doctor can tell more in 30 seconds than your entire hospital can figure out in 3 days of testing. This idea that we currently have leaders, so-called leaders, that run our nations and make decisions for us, that model will become obsolete.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, how's it going? Welcome to another Inspired Conversation. My name is John Nolan, and today I'm welcoming a very, very special guest. I'm so excited to have him on after all these years of watching and listening and learning. Thank you, Health Ranger Mike Adams. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you for the invitation. And I love that the name of your work is Inspired. And that's how I found out about you, too, that you had put some words that I had said into a video with some music and some amazing images and so on, and made it really, really powerful and profound. And that's how I found out about you. So thank you for doing that and for helping to spread the word for so many other people as well, people who have knowledge to share with our world.
Oh, thank you, Mike, and thank you for your kind words. And it's always interesting to us. We put these things out, by speakers that inspire us, and then we find out later it actually makes it all the way to you, which is that much more beautiful. And Mike, a lot of people know you as the Health Ranger. You've been doing your work for decades now, educating people, speaking truth. With not just to focus on health and nutrition, but that's been a big part of it. But what a lot of people don't know is you are, and I can say this, you're not bragging about yourself, but you are kind of a genius in many, many different areas. And a lot of people don't know that you have extensive knowledge when it comes to internet, computer, algorithm. You started the first, I think, commercial newsletter software for Fortune 500 companies. So you have truly a very broad perspective on many things. Where did that come from? Was it just an interest or a spark that you needed to know many different things? Or do you feel it's all kind of divinely guided where it leads you and what kind of work it leads you to?
Well, I think it's both. And, look, I appreciate everything you said, but I got to say to the audience, we all have miraculous nano neurotechnology in our skulls. We are all geniuses. We are all divinely created and inspired. And, sometimes it's hard for me to hear, I do get a lot of compliments from many people on different fronts. And as I say to them, it's kind of like, well, what else would I do? We're here trying to help awaken people, inspire as you do. We're trying to pass on knowledge to people. We're trying to help people realize that the world that we grew up in is not the world that's going to be here. That world is unsustainable and it is collapsing. And we had better be ready to create a new world and be ready for an explosion of ideas, concepts, technologies that have been suppressed, for example. And in order to get our heads around that, we're all going to have to operate at a genius level. Seriously, get off the TV. Get away from the old ways of thinking. We're going to have to adapt. We have to be resilient. And I think also, I don't know if it's okay for me to say this, but I think there's an energy suppression grid, like a cognitive suppression grid, an actual prison planet system that is in place. And when that is lifted, and I believe it will be in our lifetimes, what people are going to experience in terms of an explosion of creativity, awareness, awakening, connection, what I call the contagious mind, it's gonna blow people's minds. They won't even recognize their own past compared to where we're going. So that's my take on that.
Well, I'm gonna come back to the contagious mind. Such a beautiful presentation that I've seen on it, and there's an audiobook, and I want to get to that in a little bit. And from the get-go, there's absolutely no restrictions as to what can be said here. This is an open conversation. We're not going to participate in censorship. So,
Good for you.
and the message that you just gave out is literally, and this is something that has to do with the contagious mind. We're going to jump into the how that works. But the message that you put out, interestingly enough, in many ways, comes through many people at the same time, and that's why people say, you know what, I've been on Mike Adams' side. I heard this today. Now you're saying it, and this guy's saying it, and this guy's saying it, but we're not talking to each other. We're actually receiving, and we're allowing for this to come through. And this is where I wanted to touch on the genius part, which you just said. I believe when I read I've been following your work, but I never knew how deep you went into many different areas. But what I notice is people shy away from becoming geniuses because they say I'm not an expert in this area. But really what you're showing is if you allow for the Spirit to come through and for God to guide you, this is being put in front of you, and you can become really, really great and profoundly knowledgeable in many, many areas, and kind of regain this divine spark that we have, right?
Absolutely. So I call it, and I want to be clear that every person watching this was born with this capability. You could call it technology, but it's much more than that. I call it God's cloud computing system or God's internet. There's a system of sharing knowledge and information that exists that you are using, whether you realize it or not. And information comes to you through an unconscious means, because every brain interfaces with a non-material mind, and every mind is a broadcast antenna. And every idea, especially if you verbalize it, if you add words to an idea, or if you draw it and you see it, you add different senses to the reality of what you're talking about. It could be an invention, it could be an idea, it could be a prayer, it could be anything. That is broadcast out to the world, and other people receive it whether they realize it or not. And in mainstream science, it's called the 100th monkey phenomenon. But it's not just monkeys, it's every conscious creature and being and animal and human on the planet. And it even, similar things, networking exists among plants too, by the way, and not just on a chemical basis, but energetic basis. For example, even chickens, baby chickens, I raise chickens. You might hear my roosters crowing in the background, actually. I can hear them. I don't know if it's coming through, but.
No, it isn't.
Okay, good. Because two of them are having a crowing contest right now for dominance. I've got like Russia and Ukraine back there in the backyard fighting over territory right at this very moment. It's crazy. It's in the animal world too. Not to belittle that situation. That's a joke, folks. Don't take it too seriously. But how do baby chickens know to hatch all at the same time, even when they were laid one day apart? Right? There's a lot of communication that's going on. But my point is that naturally, every human being receives this information about knowledge and ideas, concepts, but we are trained to ignore it. We are trained to not listen to the inner voice, to not pay attention to intuition, to not allow the subconscious mind to have any influence over the conscious mind, because we're trained that we live in a reductionist, materialist society where knowledge can only come from, quote, authoritative sources, which are all run by criminals and crooks, of course, by the way. But what we need to do for humanity to move forward is we need to awaken the true potential that we have to share knowledge and ideas and to listen to each other. Premonition is real and it's natural. This is my other message. I'm sorry if I'm going on too long. But
no, keep going. This is beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to be clear. These are not supernatural skills, so-called psychic phenomenon. Premonition is real. Mother's intuition about her child is real. It's natural. It's not supernatural. There's nothing super about it. It's nothing demonic. This is 100% aligned with the Christian Bible and God, because God built this system, people. God built it, and you were built to interface with the system. We just have to get back to using this system. So that's kind of the overview of the contagious mind.
Isn't the idea that this is supernatural because we have a wrong perception of ourselves as beings, and our history has been distorted? We're being told we're at the peak of our evolution when Truly, if you look into it, and if you intuitively look into it, you will know that we must have been far more evolved at a time in the past. And we actually have devolved through these control systems and mechanism systems. But what you're saying is, and what you've been exemplifying in your work through all these years, is that these abilities are innate. They're actually as natural as blinking your eye or snipping your finger. We just didn't know about it. And the perceptual reality around us decreases these abilities because it keeps us in a prison. Now, one thing that I find very fascinating when I'm listening to you is, which kind of is a thing that I'm observing in people that are, you might call it self-actualized or just have remembered who they really are, is you don't allow yourself to be boxed in anymore. And you speak on so many different topics without ever giving the viewer, the listener, the feeling, hey, I'm in this box and everything that's happening in this box I agree with, or I'm in that box. What would be your advice for our viewers that are in a religious box, in a political box, and kind of find themselves always limited? How do you transcend these limitations moving forward?
Well, it's cognitive entrapment, and this is what is taught to all of us since we're children, that there's only one way to think about things. And that censorship is an expression of this, that there's only one side of every argument that you're allowed to express or to believe. A lot of this, what people need to realize, is reinforced by social pressure. So, and the social pressure is effective on people because there's a very strong need to feel accepted by others. And if you dig beneath that, and this is going to get pretty heavy, that need to be accepted by others, the root of that is a lack of acceptance of self. So literally, I mean, we're going to get into psychoanalysis, I guess, but if you love yourself and you know that you are loved by our Creator, and you know that you have a purpose here, that you're not a useless thing, you're not just the ashes and the molecules that will collapse after you die. You are so much more. You are so much greater. You are so much more powerful. When you realize that, you don't need social reinforcement. And when you don't need social reinforcement, it sets off an internal freedom to speak the truth. And when you look at all the people in the world who speak the truth, the examples like Max Igan and David Icke and so many others, we all share this common thing. We do not need other humans to accept our ideas, because if we did, we wouldn't be saying what we're saying. We speak from an internal confidence that everyone can tap into, because your worth in this world is not judged by a peer network and is not judged by Wikipedia, right? Your worth in this world is judged by your contributions to God's plan for you. And for example, my mission is to protect life, to inspire life, to awaken life. I know that's what I'm here to do. Other people have different missions. So I think step one is discover your mission, and that can only come from within or through God, but it emerges from within. No one can tell you who you are. You have to discover it. And then secondly, be true to that mission, no matter what else is happening in the world around you, no matter how many people who condemn you or who stop being your friend. If you need friends, then you're not going to pursue your mission. I'd rather fulfill life's purpose than to have decorative fake friends, right? So there's the answer.
Indeed, and beautifully put. And you've been saying this. I've heard you say this on many occasions. The world around us, and the world around us is really a matrix. I mean, this has become synonymous with the matrix that we've seen in the movies, but it's really like that. It's an artificial reality that is crumbling, and it's crumbling in all areas. And I've heard you say that, and many others, and this is my intuition as well, the only way through this is to really truly be who we were meant to be, and listen to that guidance that we receive. How do you see, also with regards maybe to current events that can never be looked at isolated, but in the big picture, how do you see the following days and weeks? I don't even want to go further because this is so intense right now that things are really evolving quickly. How do you see this, and what do you think will be the difference between people that are in this power and people that are just attached to what is happening outside of them?
Yeah, By the way, I just have to commend you. I love your questions. I love your deep thinking, your analysis. You understand the subtleties of what's at stake here and what's going on. So to answer your question, the person who does not understand who they truly are does not understand the fact that they are more than their physical self, or the fact that they are a genius, that they have been blessed with a broadcast engine, which is their own contagious mind. The person who doesn't understand that may not make it through what's coming, because we're being assaulted. Humanity is being assaulted by what I call a globalist cabal that's attempting to achieve the extermination of the human race. And those assaults come typically through means. So yes, they can weaponize the food supply, they can create scarcity, and they are doing that. They can collapse the economic system. They can terrorize you with the corporate media. They can do all these things and many other things. Someone who has no faith or understanding in who they are or how they were created or the fact that there is a higher power in the cosmos can easily give up. They can easily end up committing suicide. It happens to a lot of people right now. They give up. Even young kids, they've been socially distanced from out of the schools. They lose their connection to community, and they feel completely alone and abandoned, and they feel like, what's the point? And they take their own lives. And from their point of view, almost you can't blame them. That's what society has taught them, that you are alone, that you are isolated, you are worthless, you will die and become nothing. These are the messages from society, and they're all lies. They're all lies from forces that are demonic or satanic, or however people want to describe them. They're anti-life, anti-human forces that control the system. But they can never, there's a trick about the demonic side of things, the satanic side of things. They can never force you to give up. They can only convince you to do so. So if you simply refuse to do that, if you refuse to surrender to satanic forces, they can't make you do it, because it has to be a free will choice. So the core understanding, the faith, the recognition of who we are and what we're here to do, this is a survival, like a secret card that you can play. It's the survival card, because once you understand that, no one can force you to give up living. So that's why it's so critical to understand we're more than just physical.
And it is also something I've been asked many times, because we always advocate for peaceful non-compliance. You do not comply with things you know to be wrong, morally wrong, or you just feel ethically and spiritually you're not aligned with. The thing is that the fear mind will kick in and say, well, I'll get in trouble, I'll get in jail, I'll get arrested, all these things that might happen. The truth is, if you truly stand in your power and are, from a true soul standpoint, not complying, which is standing in your freedom, this sets free something that people will never understand until they experience it. It sets free such a power. And what has been your experience? Because here's the thing: Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, has, you've challenged so many structures in this system. It's, and you've I don't want to say big fights, because I know it was never about the fight. But the truth is, you're sitting here looking great, sounding great, spiritually grounded. Although you have gone through all these things, and although you've challenged the system, how has this power expressed through you through these challenges?
Well, I suppose it's a multi-part answer. And honestly, one of the parts is that there are literal angels that protect us, and their job is to protect us. And one of the things that I came to realize, people tend to think of angels as having these higher powers, these greater powers, and that we are these lowly earthly beings, and angels can work their faith-based powers to do whatever, perform miracles and so on. Here's what I came to realize: angels are actually, they are the servants of humankind, and it is humankind that share the power of God, and the angels work with us and for us in order to protect us, so that we might experience an uplifting, awakening, ascension, whatever you want to call it, and finally realize how powerful we were created to be as an expression of God. And even in the Bible, Jesus is quoting God and says to a group of the Israelites, he says, "You are gods." He's actually arguing with them, saying, "How dare you say that I am not the Son of God? Because even you are gods yourselves. You are beings created by God, and you don't even realize that, and you condemn anyone else who recognizes the connection." Okay, so that's a very powerful moment where Jesus was trying to lift the veil, the blinders away from humanity, and say, why are you not recognizing your power and your creator and what was gifted to you? So I don't know if that's a true answer to your question, but we do have divine protection. Doesn't mean bad things won't happen to us. We do have to be practical because we also live in a 3D world. So I'm a prepper as well. We do have to have food supplies and emergency medicine and all that. And I'm well trained in self-defense because there are physical elements, that might try to harm our physical body. But even then, your soul is bulletproof. They haven't even invented bullets that can harm your soul. No such things exist because it's out of this realm.
Oh, that is a beautiful answer, and I trust that the question leads to the right answer. I've never had an expectation of what this needs to be. It's just something that I feel, and as you've said, and this is something we've said to our viewers and listeners, this preparation serves multiple purposes. Number one, most of us, or a lot of us, are in a community, in a family, and people that depend on us, or people that partially depend on us. So there's a responsibility to us and others in this. But it's also about having peace of mind and being able to, at that time of great crisis that we're already in, but it's going to just intensify, and it's going to intensify exponentially for a period of time. It's going to allow us actually to set our time, our powers free to help others and to be a guiding light in this period. And that is only possible when we ourselves are not burdened with trying to survive. So in that aspect, I think this is also important to mention. I always say you can then be the leader that others will need in that period of time. And while we're speaking about that period of time, where do you see this current, and I don't want to, as you said, not to belittle it, but there is a big theatrical part in this current crisis, Ukraine, Russia. We see it, we can always see it when the commercials come out and the tearjerkers come out and this huge fake sympathetic movement from the system, not the people, comes out. Where do you see this? How do you see this play out? And what do you think we can expect over the coming weeks, days, months?
Well, when the globalists say they're going to carry out a global reset, they mean it. It's not a joke. It's not a conspiracy theory. They are pursuing it systematically. They have a plan and they're following the plan. I even think that Putin's invasion of Ukraine is part of a globalist plan. And as you say, the suffering is real. The attacks are real. The bullets and bombs are real in this 3D world. But at a higher level, everything that we're witnessing is theatrics. Everything, including most of the history that we think we know. And I know that many other people that you quote have also spoken about this, but a lot of our history has been completely fabricated in order to give us a false sense of who we are and where we came from. And that's to disconnect you from your true self. So if you wake up into a world without a memory, which is part of the agreement of when your soul appears here. Well, let me back up. This is a testing ground. This is my belief. This is a testing ground for your soul. But your memories are taken away from you because part of the test is to discover who you are. That's the biggest challenge. Most people never figure that out, right? So that's step number one, discover who you are and what's your purpose and what you're here to do. If you were born with all your memories, there would be no challenge. You're like, oh, here I am in a role-playing game, playing the role of an infant in this family, but you would remember everything, your entire soul history of where you came from and what you did before. So it wouldn't count. So part of the test is to say, what will you do when you must take that hero's journey of self-discovery, when you are born with no memory of who you are, and you're born into a world of incredible deception, a world that is dominated by satanic forces that are trying to deceive you with a fake history, fake news, fake medicine, fake science, fake monetary system, even in some cases, fake wars. I don't mean that they're not happening, but as you said, they're engineered, okay?
Mhm.
What can you do in this situation? So for whatever reason, you and I and those watching this right now, we agreed at a spirit level to be here in what must be one of the most treacherous and difficult challenges in the cosmos. You know, not just on planet Earth, but think about all the other planets and galaxies and other intelligent beings that inhabit this vast cosmos. This must be right up there. I'm just guessing among the most difficult situations to navigate. If you can make it through this, that's something. You are recognized, you are empowered, you pass one of the greatest tests in the entire fabric of reality.
I wanted to get back to the contagious mind that you talked about, because I think this is the exact right moment in our conversation, because people tend to think that what can their action change in this world? You've just said the world is this physical Maya reality is a dark place right now, or is controlled by dark forces. So the perception is, hey, what can little me do? And even if it's 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 of us, there's still billions. And this is where the contagious mind, that's what you call it, comes in. Can you please speak on that and maybe, open up a whole new dimension of perception for our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. The power of the contagious mind is so profound that even if you were locked in a prison cell with no contact with the outside world through traditional means, you could, by simply repeating the words of a prayer or concept, or drawing an idea and looking at it repeatedly, or posting notes to yourself, notes that you want to share with the world, reading them and verbalizing them multiple times. Through all those actions and many others, you're actually sending out that message to other conscious minds, and it will influence them. And many people will receive those ideas and they will think those ideas are their own. So the way this works right now in a world where most people don't understand how the contagious mind works is these subtle concepts and communications bubble up through the unconscious mind into the conscious mind, and people say, oh, I just had an idea. Now, let me give you a very practical example of this. Throughout history, when there are inventors who invent something, like let's take Thomas Edison and the light bulb, it usually turns out there was somebody else who did the exact same invention somewhere else around the world, right? Same thing with the phonograph invention and so on. There are multiple inventors who then fight with each other often in the courts. And say, no, I invented it first. And then, no, I invented it. And they're completely independent. How does that happen? Because when one person is working on it, everything that they're thinking is being shared with everybody else, and somebody else picks up on it too. And then they have little developments, and those are shared back. It's actually a collaborative effort. And the truth is, John, there's no such thing as a standalone inventor. It doesn't exist. And once you understand that, you realize why we need to completely rethink intellectual property laws, patents, trademarks, and so on. There's no invention that anyone ever created all their own, or a corporation created on their own. All inventions stand on the shoulders of other people's thoughts, ideas, concepts, words, and sometimes prayers. And we do this together. And literally, I don't mean in like a woo-woo sense. I mean literally, there is a communication infrastructure that exists from mind to mind. It's not supernatural, it's entirely natural. It's just that we haven't been able to detect it yet. Someday we will, but it's real.
And this, I always say, where do our ideas come from if there wasn't a natural system in place? Like every communication system that we, we're not inventing it, we're reproducing it with very primitive means right now compared to the natural system. But, the internet or video or, phones, all these things, must come from somewhere, this intuitive knowing that this is possible for us. But you have taken this also to a scientific level. I heard you speak about, and maybe to show that this applies to everything in our reality, that when particles are spliced, and when they are in different places, whatever happens to one particle, the other particle reacts in the exact same way, even though it's not been manipulated. And you have spoken about this in substances that have changed their form, and that all of a sudden, all the substances in the world have changed to the same form. So there's many scientific ways to explain this as well. Can you touch on that also, and what you have experienced in that field?
Well, sure, yes. And as much as I'm proficient in the world of science. I've got a couple patents myself. I'm a published lab scientist. I own and run a laboratory for food science analysis using mass spectrometry and so on. But science is not the only way to experience the world. It's not even the best way. And before I answer that question, I want to go back to the fact that even ancient civilizations, native cultures around the world, it is a common thread in their culture that they would talk to plants, or they could receive information from plants. Now, in our modern Western society, people look at that and tend to think, well, that's crazy, you can't talk to plants. Actually, humans have been doing that forever. Plants actually do broadcast information. Plants are alive. Plants have a kind of consciousness. It's not the same experience that we have. The flow of time may be experienced differently, for an oak tree, for example. But plants, in fact, do communicate with each other and with us, and we can communicate with plants and other living systems. And, Native American culture, right, is very common. You go to Native Indigenous Australia, in that culture, it's very close with plants and communicating with plants and nature and so on. And you wonder, how did ancient Chinese figure out the traditional Chinese medicine formulas 2,500 years ago? And then if you scientifically look at those herbs today, you find, oh, look, yeah, there's this molecule here in the Ba Jiao herb. And this molecule suppresses, this receptor site, and it stops the plague. And you can prove it today scientifically. Well, they didn't have those instruments 2,500 years ago. How do they know? Because they were getting information from plants. It wasn't just trial and error. They had a system of communication that they were more attuned to. So part of what's happened, I apologize if I'm going on too long, but we have all of our technology distracts us from being able to listen to the far more subtle and more quiet voices. Distracts us from being able to listen to the voices of the plants, of the animals, of nature, and of other people, but and the voices of children. They're not verbal. So when we become blasted with cell phones and movies and music, not that there's anything wrong with certain types of music, but I mean, if you're just inundated with nonstop electronic news, you're getting blown out with that, your mind can't hear anything that's quiet. And it's the same message even biblically, right? Be still and know that I am with you. What does that mean? Quiet your mind, and then you'll be able to hear something from God. But you can't do it if you're just always talking or receiving, inundation. And by the way, I'm sorry, but this has to do with fragrance as well. I've spoken about this a lot. People, they buy laundry detergents and lotions and skincare products that inundate their senses with toxic fragrance chemicals. It's in every grocery store. It's in half the people I meet. I can smell them many feet away. They are poisoning their own minds with an overload of an olfactory sense from toxic molecules, fragrance molecules. That's another kind of noise. And then there's electropollution and 5G noise. Many different types of noise. You have to get away from all that noise to be able to hear the real conversation that's happening in the world, in the cosmos.
And I know the irony is not lost on both of us, that we're using an electronic medium and technology to send this message out. But what I hear you say is, use it consciously and turn it off consciously. Don't bathe in it. Don't just be blasted with it. And we understand it's a means to an end right now. It's not the end. It's just a means to an end. But also something that you just touched on that triggered an awareness is that this force that you've been talking about before, that really, as you said, it wants to create this global reset, it wants to create this dystopia. It uses any and all means to intoxicate us, as you just said, to distract us. So even when people say, well, how can a perfume do that? Oh, it's so much more sophisticated than you think. And so one of the things that we keep sharing with our viewers is to really rethink their whole day. I mean, really go from top to bottom and really, what am I doing? How am I doing it? Why am I doing it? What am I drinking? What am I watching? What am I putting on my skin? What am I wearing? Where am all these things? And maybe you could share a little bit. And I don't want to go too private, too much into your private space, but maybe you could share a little bit. What are some of the rituals that you do every day that allow you to be grounded, to be receptive, and to be in touch?
Well, one of the things I do every day is I walk in nature with no other visitors around anything, but I walk with my animals. So I have Nigerian dwarf goats, and I take my goats and my dogs together on a walk every day. And I've done that, every day for probably 15 years or something. Only missed a couple of days because of weather. And when you walk with animals and you watch how animals interact with nature and with each other, I also have donkeys, and sometimes then we'll encounter the donkeys on the walk. And so I get to visit them and get to pay attention to what they're doing. Having a lot of animals tunes you into a lot of nonverbal communication. And so at one level, it's body language, right? Everyone who's owned a dog or a cat begins to get a sense of what are their emotions just from their body language. But those who really own, even own's not the right word, that's not even correct, have companionship of an animal, right? Because there's no ownership. You are their caretaker. But when you really deepen that relationship, you become intuitive with let's say a family dog. Intuitive. You know what they're feeling or thinking, or you know if they've gone missing even before there's evidence of it. And this exists between a mother and a child as well. So mothers, scientifically proven that mothers know when their children feel hungry, even when their infants are many miles away. Rupert Sheldrake talked about this, some of the research in his books. And the mother's breast will actually begin to lactate, begin to produce milk unconsciously when the infant is hungry many miles away. How can that happen? So communication is
Ancient aliens and reptiles manipulating human DNA. History Channel. A Woman's Hive. Recounts.
Types of
reptilians.
Lizard or reptilian.
Down at her.
I woke up. A reptilian came into the room. We went to an underground cave.
Underground guns.
There was a group of reptilians there, and they stood around me in a circle. Each one of them put one hand on my body. And
the military black ops.
And it was the most amazing, but also sort of bizarre situation to look down at your body and see it morph.
Independent research. The ancient aliens and human hybrids revealed. And there's quite a few, but the third kind, due to channel, declassified documents. These are fallen angels, demonic entities. And the advancement in technology, alien human hybrids. So it's worth the research, but I'm not going to be here that long. Just desktop software. A lot of people turn to platforms, social media platforms already. It's got information out there. I won't go into that myself right now. So when you're looking at the movies, the best one, Beyond, if I can find it. This is a book by William Cooper. This is history of the mysteries, the secret teachings of Mani Hall. And the ancient Egyptians' word for portals as men, which basically for gods. The ancient Egyptians' word for pyramids is fascinating read, this is. And the book is 500 pages long. The ancient occults goes back the year 4000 BC. Observations by previous people has been one well known back in the 1974. So they found a lot of archivets, Sumerian, ancient real information, and what William Cooper's done over his former passed away a long time ago out of what's he called, the late I've forgotten what it's called now, but somebody died recently and he's a good researcher. This one, the late William Cooper, in my opinion, I will endeavour to decipher some of the information and make some notes and highlights, because the Luciferian agenda, what's behind that in history today, is where we are today, the end times. I am extremely hacked on any platform and device I use, and physically, and the brain interface technology. I had no clue all these patterns existed. The mind control, the MK Ultra trauma based. Now he breaks down the symbolisms as well. Albert Pike, the iris, represented by the sun. How art thou fallen from heavens, O Lucifer? All these particular words, a lot of these Freemasons begin their Canada from AL in the new year of the light, found by adding 4,000 to the modern year. Thus 1990 plus 4,000 equals 5,990 AL. Somebody wrote that once a future star, the ancient Sumerians described a giant star, a future star, the ancient Sumerians exploding within a triangle formed by Zeta. It goes in Pacific names. Some of these are Latin. Located in the southern sky, exploded within the triangle. It would again be seen by man in 3,000 years. According to the Freemasons calendar, it would occur in the year 2000, and indeed it will. They're talking about the Windward Nibiru planet system, and their planet means its own solar system surrounding it. The orbiting. When its final orbit decays in December 1999, Galileo will deliver its payload into the center of Jupiter. The unbelievable pressure that will be encountered. The center of Jupiter, the unbelievable, will cause a reaction, as occurs when an atom bomb is exploded by, and will cause a reaction exactly as it occurs. An explosion monitor. The explode is an atom reaction, lightening the hydrogen and helium atmosphere of Jupiter, resulting in the birth of the star that's already been named Lucifer. The world will interpret it as a sign of tremendous religious sacrifice of significance. It will fulfill prophecy. In reality, it's only a demonstration of insane application of technology by the adjacent society, which may or may not even work. They are practiced overkill to ensure success. However, as the documents that I have read while in the Navy intelligence states the Project Galileo, £5 of certain type explosives, Jupiter, and possibly save off the coming ice age. Global warming is a hoax, it says. It is easier for the public to deal with and give the warning elite more time to before the panic and hierarchy replaces government. The reality is that overall global temperatures are becoming lower, so mini ice age. Storms are becoming more violent and less predictable. There was manipulation of the weather recently. Anyway, for now, I was just testing this out. I need to end the stream and stop sharing. See, now hacking my main internet connection. End of stream.